This is the Almost Timely newsletter for the week of May 8th, 2022. Happy Mother's Day to all who fulfill that role, regardless of who you actually are. What's on my mind this week? AI and inequality. This week, I was talking to the Trust Insights team at our weekly marketing meeting about our marketing strategy, looking at our April results. And I said something kind of funny. Let's just jettison our SEO focus. Now, on the surface, that seems kind of silly, doesn't it? Like ignoring a channel that you don't pay for seems like a poor idea, but there's some nuance to this. Let me dig into the reasoning behind this. When I started doing what we now call SEO back in the 1990s, there was no AI, right? There were no artificial intelligence algorithms at work. Some very, very straightforward statistics and math powered most of search engines back then. The predominant non-AI algorithm was the eigenvector centrality indexing for network graphs. There were no deep neural networks, no fancy recommendation engines, and during that time, small companies and small websites had a real shot at being found as often and as prominently as big companies. When deep neural networks started really becoming the backbone of search engines around 2015, the game changed. And not for the better. What happened? Well, big web properties became bigger, ranked better, accrued more traffic and attention. Small web properties got squeezed out for a lot of the top volume searches. There's still plenty of room at the long tail, but the short head, that is the domain of the big folks. Why? It doesn't have anything to do with SEO. It's not a global conspiracy to let big corporations win. They don't need tinfoil hats. It's a much simpler and slightly frightening explanation. Inequality is built into AI with a bias towards letting bigger entities win. I'll say that again. Inequality is built into AI with a bias towards letting bigger entities win. There's a simple explanation for this. To build an AI model, which is just fancy talk for machine-written software made by machines, you need data. You need a lot of data. You've heard me say things like training data sets, and you need a lot of it to make an AI model. There's a reason Google gives away so many services like Google Photos, Google Voice, Google Search, YouTube, etc. It's not because they're charitable, and it's not because they're trying to make a ton of money at ads, right? They're trying to build AI models, and their AI models need material, need content to train on. So the more they collect and the more we volunteer, the better those models perform. And of course, those then in turn power things like search and ads, etc. Well, when you're ranking content, if you imagine you were a search engine, if you're ranking content, who's going to create better content at scale? Brands that have budgets and resources to do so. It's that simple, right? A company that has, 5 employees on its content marketing team is inherently just going to create less content, all other things being equal, than a company that has 500 employees on its content marketing team, right? If you are a coffee shop and you got one person making a blog post every day, and you've got a massive coffee chain with a content marketing team that exceeds the total number of employees, customers, and neighbors that you have, the coffee shop chain's just going to create more content, probably on average slightly better. And if you're a search engine building an AI to return search results and you crawl the web and you weed out the obvious crap, right? What are you left with? A pile of good content, where by simple mathematics, more of the content, the good content, was created by larger organizations that had the resources to build it. Add in a twist like Google's reliance on ratings like expertise, authority, and trustworthiness, which they document in plain language in their search quality rating guidelines, and you have an even bigger bias towards larger brands with larger budgets. Why? Well, who do you trust? Right? You trust entities that you've heard of or that you've had positive experiences, and you trust brands that deliver consistent experiences as well as investing heavily in brand building. So by definition, and again, A brand that can put €1 million into brand building is going to have more recognition, authority, and trust than the brand that doesn't invest in brand building. I'll give you an example. Here's a simple thought exercise. Name a coffee shop brand. Name a fast food brand. Name a store that you shop in. Name a mobile phone manufacturer. Did any of the choices you mentally summoned just now spend nothing and do no effort on brand building? Probably not. Chances are you thought of brands that invest incredible amounts of money and effort into brand building. And it paid off. They live in your head. You trust them, which means that when you're interacting with search engines, you click on things and indicate with your behavior that these brand entities are trustworthy. That brand building effort paid off, right? Because it is now training data for search engines to go, this is a trustworthy brand because this user sticks with these search results. Because of its nature of needing a lot of data to build models, AI will always favor the larger data sources. And larger data sources will correlate strongly with larger brands and larger budgets because that's who can afford to create the data that AI needs to train on. So, what are you supposed to do if you don't have a big budget, right? Or you've got a competitor that's outspending you 100x. How do you survive in a world where the deck is firmly stacked against you by big budget competitors and AI algorithms working against you? Well, wind back the clock 50 years. There's been a lot of that going on lately. How did small businesses stay alive in a world where all media was controlled by large corporations? They had absolutely no voice, right? In the time when there were 3 channels on TV, the local radio station and the local paper. How did small businesses survive? Well, 3 simple things work for challenger brands back then and today. Number 1, create a product or service that's substantially better. That's obvious, right? But that's the table minimum. If your product or service isn't noticeably better to your customers, your marketing efforts are going to be in vain. Get that right first, which, again, a lot of larger brands don't do. Number 2, create a community, whether it's something modern like a Discord server or a Slack server, or something old school like a mailing list or a bulletin board. Have a way for people to interact directly with you and each other, especially your most loyal, ardent fans. This is your insurance policy against AI. When customers spread news of your brand by word of mouth through communications channels that are not mediated by algorithms like chat groups, SMS messages, direct messages, emails, whatever, AI can't interfere with that. Right? It cannot interfere with the spread of your brand when one person is directly talking to another, where there is no algorithm in between, right? When you're chatting with your neighbor at the local barbecue, you're talking directly to your neighbor and you're telling them about a brand experience that you had. But you need a community to seed and maintain that brand. And number 3, again, on the obvious side, create a memorable brand. Right? At the end of the day, search engines can't interfere with customers if customers don't have to search. Search engines cannot interfere with customers if customers don't have to search. If you are top of mind in your customers' heads, they will turn to you directly instead of needing an intermediary. There's no way for an AI algorithm to intercept you typing in my company's URL directly in your browser, right? If you know that you're searching for trustinsights.ai, if you know you've done business with us, if you know who you are, you don't need to Google us. You just type in trustinsights.ai into the browser and off you go. That's having a memorable brand. People remember it, right? Do you have to Google for McDonald's? No. Do you have to Google for Apple? No. You type in apple.com and there you go. So, how will I be putting this to work? How should you be putting this to work? Have I given up on SEO? Well, sort of. As we discussed in our team meeting this week, we're pivoting towards a strategy where SEO is a nice to have, right? Rather than a core marketing channel, making content for other purposes besides SEO. I mean, we'll still create great content, but our intent and our focus is to create content that real people, you, actually ask for, because we know at least one person will read it, right? We've been saying since 2006 on Marketing Over Coffee that the most sound SEO strategy in the world is to operate as though there were no search engines at all. There was no Google. It doesn't exist. What would you do? How would you market if Google didn't exist? Right? That strategy is more true now than ever. How would you stay in front of customers, reminding them that you exist in ways that still provide them value, right? Because annoying your customers is not a good strategy. Whatever that is, whatever your answer to that question is, do that. Right? Do that, because all of these AI algorithms that power search, that power social media, like Facebook and Twitter and stuff, they're not on your side unless you happen to work at the brand leader and that is spending big to create content that search algorithms are using and social media algorithms are using to train their recommendation engines. If you are the category leader, SEO is going to work great for you, right? In fact, it's going to be better than ever for you. If you're not the leader, it's time for Plan B. Other things in the news this week. Got some good content as always. A question this week that I thought was a lot of fun. Brian asked me what makes for epic content marketing and how do you do it? And I answered those questions on the blog. Please go check them out. Pimping, as always, the Search Console course. Please take that. Some new jobs this week. We have, what do we have this week? We have a bunch of things. We have a senior growth marketing manager at Forma.ai, head of CRO at TripScout, senior ad tech manager at Mytheresa, public relations specialist at Digimentors, and digital demand manager at Nokia. So lots of really good new positions available this week. Good to see. Some thank you notes. Elja Dai, I'm sorry, I mangled your name. It's a Dutch name, and I don't know how to pronounce that. Getting Smarter in 2022, which was nice. Secret Sushi had me on their podcast, as well as Analytica, Martech, Veracity folks, so thank you. And in the news this week, more focus on the TikTok algorithm and how it works, whether you should update or delete your old content, how to generate query answers. Bill Slosky over at SEO by the Sea has some good content there. And on the Google AI blog, auto-generating summaries in Google Docs. So some pretty cool stuff happening there. And Simo Ahava with enriching server-side data with Cloud Firestore. So lots of good things to read this week. Upcoming events. Next major event is going to be the Spark Me conference in Montenegro. So if you're going to be at that, come say hi. The Martech conference in June. I'll be doing an attribution workshop with Katie, my partner Katie. Maycon in August in Cleveland, and the Marketing Profs B2B Forum in October here in Boston. So lots of events. So that's the news for this week. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Again, happy Mother's Day for all who fulfill that role. That applies to you regardless. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.